Hey there, I just wanted to take a second to say thank you so much for watching this episode of The Shepherd Station. If you feel this has added some value to your life, it would mean so much to us if you would share this episode with someone else. It helps us so much when you do that. It would go a long way in supporting our mission to help men become better fathers, husbands, and leaders. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and give us a like. If you're listening to us through Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you listen to podcasts, follow us, leave us a review, and let us know how we're doing. We want to hear from you. All right, that's all I've got. Now, let's get back to the episode.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Shepherd Station. Thanks for listening to our show. Thanks for watching. We are at the Stockyard in Headland, 24 East Church Street, Headland, Alabama. Come by and see us. Really good food, good coffee, good Lotus energy drinks. You'll love them. Come see us. If you can't see us, go downtown in Dothan at Neural City Coffee. That's where we get all our coffee. Go see Zach and Destiny. They'd love to see you come in. We've got a really good show today. Andy's not with us in the place today. I'm kind of feeling a little bit under the weather, but we do have him on the video screen. He's going to be with us. Always Thomas is with me. We've got two guests in the studio today. I like to call it a studio. It's not really a studio, but we have two guests with us today. One is Nick Wilson. He is the youth pastor at Calvary Baptist in Abbeville, Alabama.
Yep. Good morning.
He's also an elementary teacher at Abbeville Elementary School in Abbeville, Alabama. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Glad
Thanks
you
for
could
the
be
invite.
Yeah, yesterday
I was your very first pick.
you were my first pick. We had an open spot. We've got a few people scheduled in the future, but Erica, when you came in yesterday with Adam Jolly, and Adam's been on the show before, Erica said, you really need to have Nick on there. He knows his stuff. I was like, well,
Oh, man.
Thomas had come up and said,
expectations.
yeah, there is expectations.
Oh, yeah.
You've got a lot of
No pressure.
And, Thomas had said, hey, let's talk about discipline tomorrow. Well, I mean, that's a really, really vague, broad subject. And Erica was, she was pretty adamant. She said, you need to have Nick on there. He really knows what he's talking about. I was like, why not? So I'm excited, man. I want to see how it goes. And then
This is great. Anytime we talk about Jesus.
absolutely, anytime we talk about Jesus. Now, the one sitting to Nick's right is, let's just call him what he is, folks. This is without having the same blood, this is my brother. All right. We have known each other for a long time. Marcus Brigman.
Hello.
If you know Marcus, then you just know Marcus. It's about the closest thing to me as a brother as it can get. And
Yep.
We're gonna have him on a future episode pretty soon, hopefully.
I get my own show.
Everybody, welcome to Marcus's show. Marcus has an incredible story, and just to preface the upcoming episode with him, Marcus was I don't really know how to put it. Marcus was saved through an event in his life that almost took his life.
Yep. Nice.
He literally he was, how did Joe put it, Andy? He was circling the drain.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mark was literally circling the drain. He was almost gone.
I had about an hour of life left in when they found me, so it was a bad day.
If we can do it, and if you don't mind, I mean, that's up to you. I wouldn't want to see that mug.
It just gets me emotional sometimes.
I don't blame you. In the episode when we do, your story, we put some pictures up of how bad he was. So,
and it kind of fits with today's thing about the self-discipline.
Oh yeah,
and all that. It kind of rolls in together with your beliefs, and
sure,
it's hard. It's hard to kill an old Tennessee hillbilly.
Tell me,
he is an old Tennessee hillbilly. Look at that.
Like
Yeah.
A tractor.
Oh,
I love that.
That's another T-shirt right there.
That's
That's
a penny in my PayPal account.
I'm
every time
putting
you
your
use
face
that.
on that.
Yeah.
So anyway, so let's get started. Thomas, this was your subject today, so take it away.
Hang on, I'm still writing
He's
down
actually writing that
Marcus's quote there.
You might need another notepad when
I know, yeah, I might have to. I don't know.
We'll call them Marcus-isms.
Yeah, right there, Marcus-isms. So I wanted to talk about discipline today. There's so many different avenues we can go with that. But the two today that we're going to sort of dive into is self-discipline and the discipline that comes from the Lord, and what that means and what that looks like for us and why that's important, and how, honestly, the world, our culture is really lacking in both of these things, and does not like just the term discipline in general. I mean, we've seen how people respond to parents disciplining their children over the years, that it's treated as if it's abuse. In a lot of scenarios, when it's not, they need correction. They need these things. We all need these things. It's this fight back against the flesh, that we want what we want. We want our pleasures. We want our desires. We don't want anybody to tell us no to that. We don't even want to tell our own selves no to that. So there's a lot to dig into, I think, with all of that.
One of the things you talked about children, parents disciplining their children, and going through a career long with law enforcement, as Andy can attest to. And Mark, a little bit about Marcus. Marcus is a former military and also former sheriff's deputy. How long were you? 15 plus?
Yeah, it was over 10.
Yeah, a long-time law enforcement officer as well. So he can understand this and relate to this too. We would go to calls, where it would be given out as a domestic violence incident. And when we get there, it's a child that is, well, my dad spanked me.
Yikes.
Oh, wow.
So
My dad spanked me?
Yeah, it's no joke. Seriously.
Wow.
Went to several of those. I don't know if
The
Andy-
kid called?
I got some good ones.
The kid called, said
Yeah, the kid would
911, hey, my dad spanked me.
Yeah. Well, no, he didn't say that, but when you get there,
When you get
you're
there-
finding out what's going on. Yeah, my dad spanked me, and he can't do that.
We had a walk-in at the office. There's the worst. When they walk in, and I was in the back doing a report. Dispatch come back and got me. I went out. It was a dad and his son. I'm like, what's going on?
The dad let his son, the
Dad's
dad?
like, tell him. He's like, my dad whipped me. I'm like, okay. What'd you do? And the dad hands me it's like a $9,000 phone bill. We won't talk about what the numbers he was calling. And I looked at him and I was like, you're lucky you got off with the whooping.
Yeah.
I remember going to a call, and I probably shouldn't have done it because it's probably not politically correct, but same scenario. Hey, my dad spanked me. Well, what'd you do? Well, I did X, Y, Z. All right, hold on a second. Sir, you want me to hold him down so you can
That's kind of how that one went. Yeah.
Man. Yeah.
Well, I used to do some public speaking, and whenever I would talk to some teachers groups and some educators, I'd always say, law enforcement and educators, we're the only professions that are expected to deal with other people's children and their problems every day.
Yeah.
Social work.
Yeah.
I'm not making a joke.
No, as an elementary school teacher,
It's tough.
yeah, like you probably understand that to a deep level.
You got to be a counselor to.
Yeah.
People don't know how to
Let's
handle
not
their
get
own
too
problems.
far
Corporal
down the
punishment is spanking, right? Not capital. Capital is death, right? So corporal punishment is out of the school. There's no spanking. It's TOR rooms. They get in a room.
So they've stopped spanking.
no spanking.
So all the spankings I got
In
in school-
Abbeville, at least, right?
Yeah.
We know.
I had
Where
a
you
teacher
are.
factory reset me one time with a slap.
And it worked,
They
right?
can't, yeah, look at me now, man. I'm still here.
Factory reset. Yeah.
That's another T-shirt.
Yeah. Let me write that down.
Now, I don't want to get too far down the rabbit hole of children discipline, but that is a big thing that we need to talk about because it goes into it. But
Yeah.
if I could, I want to read this because I was going through this last night after you talked about that. But it's and this is let's see if I can get the title for it. 10 key Bible verses on spiritual discipline. And the one that really stuck out to me is, let me get back to it.
Psalms, I thought.
See, if I could write this stuff down like you do, I'd be
There it
much
is.
better off. All right, so it's Psalm 1, verse 1 and 2. Blessed is the man who walks not in the counsel of the wicked, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and on his law he meditates day and night. So I think that when you first brought this up, I was like, man, the spiritual discipline, that's something that we really need to talk about. Because it's that discipline, just like anything else, it's going to keep us going. And I think we need to expound on that subject a little bit as well.
Yeah, and that's how I was going to sort of open up. So that's really great because I was going to ask the question and have us just sort of talk about this. Like, what's to be gained? What's so important about discipline? And because in talking about its importance, why do we see it being fought against so much in our culture to discipline ourselves, to not, or to be disciplined? What are we seeing with that? Nick, you probably, especially I want to hear from you with the school system and all that stuff too, but what do you think is the importance of discipline?
Go back to your first question. Tom Landry said one time that coaches, he was a Dallas football coach. He said a coach's job is to make the athletes do what they don't want to do for the potential of them being who they want to be, right? And so in discipline, I believe that that through the word we have to be equipped in these situations, right? We have to be in the word. We have to let our shepherds, this is shepherd's talk, right? We have to let our pastors shepherd us, counsel us, and how to deal with these situations. So in the school system, it's tough because there are state regulations and then there's my beliefs, right? And to mix the two, love is the key element though, and discipline, isn't it? So
Even when it's hard.
even when it's hard love is just the same as easy love. You were raised by your parents. It was easy to love them because they gave you a car, they gave you gas money, they gave you food. Like I can love them.
Yeah.
Right. Well, take me out of that and put me in front of somebody that has nothing to offer. That's Christ's love. No pain, no gain, right?
Yeah.
No pain, no gain, right?
Absolutely.
You went through the pain,
Yeah.
right? And you spiritually grown through that. God
Tremendously.
disciplined you through those trials and tribulations.
Absolutely.
So when we have instances, I'll pull a kid to the side, I'll lay it down to them. Like, we don't do that here. We're expected to do better. Expectations and discipline. And in the world, you mentioned the world, like we live in America, like we have so many options to just do what we're not supposed to do. Right?
Yeah.
Open up your
A
phone,
smorgasbord.
Google one word and see where it leads you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we have so many temptations in front of our faces. We have to be equipped. We all know Ephesians 6, right? We have to put on that armor every day. We got up this morning. Hopefully we were all in the word. I'm in Ephesians. How great is Ephesians?
Perfect.
Right? That's like, let's go, So, but we have to understand who we are, and we have to understand the God that we serve. When we read our Bibles, it's not about us. It's about finding out who God is.
Yeah.
And we all know all the scriptures y'all have right here. It's all leading to us trying to push toward that holiness. When the last comment to meditate on my word day and night, like you got to know it. You got to know it. In here. You might not be able to recite it or pop it out, but you got to know what it said.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that we have, with the, when we were created, God gives us free will. Well, man, in this country, I think that everybody sitting at this table and on, with Andy, that we're here, would all agree that our country has taken, the term free will to a whole new level.
For sure.
And the discipline to be able to combat, my free will says I want to do this, and this is probably not the best thing for me to do. How do you learn martial arts?
By training.
You learn martial arts by getting up, I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to put in the time to perfect a technique, and then I'm going to train that technique. And I'm tired of doing this technique, but I know I need to keep doing it. I'm going to be physically fit. I'm going to put in the time to make sure it's commitment.
If you want to be good at it.
If you want to be good at it. Discipline is a commitment. And without the discipline without the commitment there, you let your free will take over. And I think we all see what's going on, when we let the free will take over. And in the last days, they say that evil will be good and good will be called evil. And I think that's where we're at.
I gotta say we're there.
Yeah. We're there. We're there for sure. And
that's my 2 cents.
And so the question, why is it important to be disciplined, by the Lord, or to have our own self-discipline through the Holy Spirit? I think is the key to that is at the beginning of that verse that you just said, blessed is the man, right? So in there, blessed does not mean to receive blessing. It doesn't mean that you're going to receive all this favor from the Lord. It means you will do well if you do these things. And the same word is used, not the same literal word, but the same meaning of the word is used in Revelation when it talks about blessed is the person who reads this book and meditates on it, thinking on it. So like the whole idea is you will do well in life. And that's why it's a proverb. It's because it's Solomon teaching, saying, hey, this is what you need to do in order to succeed in life. If you want to be successful, not according to the world standards, but by God's standards, this is what you need to do. So blessed is the man who does not, all these things, right? Stand in the way of sinners, sit in the seat of scoffers, meditates on the Lord's law, like these lists of things, but mainly allowing God to discipline your mind and your heart to be in line with what it is that he wants. You'll be blessed for that.
And tongue.
Right. Yeah, like there's so many different areas of our life that need self-control, that self-discipline for sure.
Marcus.
But
What? I'm sorry. My bad. Did I say that out loud? Andy, you're kind of quiet. What's up?
I think self-discipline is really hard these days because there are so many distractions. In olden times, either the electronics weren't there. There was no social media there. If you wanted media, you had to get it and read the morning newspaper. If you got a morning newspaper, whatever, or see the morning news, which was old. That was yesterday's news. It wasn't up to date. But I think there's so many distractions these days that self-discipline is even harder. Whether it's self-discipline in yourself to get up and work out in the mornings, or if it's the discipline to sit down and read your Bible and to make sure we have that spiritual discipline, to join the Lord in prayer every morning, or to get up and read your Bible every morning, or to do whatever it is that you need to do or want to do every morning to accomplish that spiritual growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And
it takes more discipline to not let those distractions get in the way.
And that's a big thing. Like
you're right.
I tell our students, I work on posts, like, what's the layman definition of discipline? It's doing the right thing when nobody's looking. It takes you as an individual, that discipline, to sit down and open your heart to God, read the Bible, and do the right thing. It's not something you could just go out and do. It takes work. It is a commitment.
Yeah.
And I've always believed in God without getting into too much stuff on what we're going to talk about later. But after going through what I went through, you have a newfound appreciation for things in life, for the Lord. And I've read the Bible more in the last couple of months than I have since Iraq.
Well, since you went that way, and there's a question I want to ask. I don't know how to ask it, and it's directed to you.
Okay.
You had a bad situation happen. How has that affected you? How has that affected that? Because you've always been one that is, a very disciplined individual in certain things.
I have my moments.
You have some weaknesses, and we've discussed those.
Yeah.
This man will drink Monster Energy drinks by the gallon.
Used to. Former Monster addict.
And I tried to beg him to stop those things.
14th of April was my last day of.
I believe anybody that felt the presence of God, it's a game changer, right?
And there's people, people believe what they believe. People experience different things. Just real quick on my experience, it's people ask me, did you see anything? What? It's not that I seen something, or it's like everybody had a grandma they loved, and nobody gives a hug like Granny, right?
Yeah.
It was like a place you wanted to go where your Granny was hugging you, that you wanted to stay.
You didn't want to leave.
But I was like, man, I am okay here, but I got stuff I want to do. I hate to go, but it felt welcoming, if that makes sense.
If I may, did you have a relationship with Christ before all this?
I've always been a believer. I mean, divine intervention. I watched 6 of my brothers die in a helicopter crash in front of my face, and I didn't get a scratch on me. I blowed myself up with a claymore. I got one little piece of my leg. Got lucky. Come out wearing a pair of shorts. And there's so many things that have happened to me that I should not be here. Everybody's like, wasn't your time? And I believe in divine intervention. So I've always had that connection. Been proud of the man upstairs. But when you actually get to the point I was at, where it was literally, they were like, this guy's not going to make it. That was their feeling. And the guy that picked me up in the ambulance, I know him. Went to paramedic school with one of them. Super guys.
We got a little visitor behind us.
And they brought me back and kept me alive, got me to the hospital, and they did not think they would ever see me again until I walked in the office when I got out of the hospital.
Yeah.
They were like, wow, oh man, it's good to see.
Right.
And
you
like, you have a choice, right, at that moment to say,
why did this happen to me?
And you can take
Or-
a gift. It's a gift.
Yeah.
You can
Or
take that
say-
gift and choose to do good with it,
Right.
or you can let the devil back in
Exactly.
and go a different path.
That's it.
Right. Well, and
And-
obviously God had showed you some things through this.
Absolutely.
And there's some growth that came out of that. And
Humility.
right. Yeah.
Very.
Yeah.
It's
And,
it's a humbling experience.
Yeah.
Because
I would equate God, like suffering that brings growth, to a dad spanking his child when he does something wrong. That, as a dad, as all of us, I'm
Yeah.
sure, being fathers, I don't delight in spanking my children. I
Take
don't
your-
enjoy it,
yeah, not at all.
but there's a moment where I see, this is needed, because if they don't understand, there's pain that comes along with the thing they've done wrong. There's suffering there. And if they don't feel that suffering in that moment, they need to understand that. And if they don't, then they're going to grow up thinking that they can just do what they want,
Absolutely.
and there's no consequence for their actions.
We don't take
And-
our kids and put them in the middle of the road, though.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
People come and
Like,
go. Like,
we-
we got
yeah.
to get them out of the road.
Yeah.
It's our job.
I was noticing a
Yeah.
trend at the end of my law enforcement career. And I still see it today. It's the parents want to be their child's friend and not the
Yeah.
parent. Like I told my son, I said, I'm not your drinking buddy.
Yeah.
I'm your dad.
Yeah.
And that's kind of our understanding.
Well, I'm gonna add to
And-
that.
It's just society.
But society has gotten it to where
Technology.
You got to treat them different.
you do.
I will tell you this, and I've told all
Feelings.
of my kids this, and if you want to put this out one day, this is what needs to come out. My children know this. I've told my son this. I love my son, both my sons, unconditionally. No matter what they do, I love them. I am not your friend. I am not your friend. I am your
parent.
father. I'm your parent.
That's right.
I'm here
Mhm.
to prepare you for the world.
You know,
When
and what's
become
crazy-
An adult, when you become an adult, you get out on your own. Hopefully, I've given you the tools to get out on your own and do the right thing and
Right.
become a successful, but a productive, good member of society.
And I want to say something
But I
to
am
that.
not your friend. I'm your dad.
And Nick, help me clarify this, because I know you're going to know what I'm thinking too. All of you guys, I'm sure, will understand. You feel that way about your kids.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm your dad. I'm your parent. I'm not your friend. Now, some dads want to be their friend, but God
Later on
does
in
say,
life, I will be your friend. Later
Yeah.
on in life.
God does say we are friends of God, not because we are his friends, but because we have found favor with God.
Mhm.
But because now we don't have to be afraid of him, right? Fear of judgment is the idea. We don't have to be afraid of that anymore once we are children of God. However, God, I feel like, that is absolutely, when we see the character of God throughout the Bible, he is also like, I am your king.
Yeah.
I'm your father.
Mm.
I am not.
Especially
be-
right now.
Yeah, I'm not your
Yeah.
homeboy. I'm not
Definitely.
your
I hate those t-shirts.
sidekick. I'm not here to do what you want. I'm your king. You're here to serve me. I'm your
You're
father.
here to serve me. You're supposed to do what
Right.
I want you
And
to
if
do.
you feel that way, how much more do you think God wants the respect and the reverence that he deserves, from us?
But see, God sets up the family the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, he really does. Because, okay, and this may sound arrogant, but it's not. Okay, so God is the father. He is the king. He is the ruler of everything.
Yeah.
We're to serve him.
Right.
We're to gladly serve him.
Yeah. And he has every right to be served. Yeah.
And if we follow, and a completely different subject here, but if we follow the plan that God has, and there's so many families out there that if they would do this, they could be healed. They could move forward with success as a
Name
family.
it, claim it.
If we literally started following the biblical plan that God set forth from the beginning on how things are supposed to be, the man, the husband, he is to be that. It's like you said before in a sermon. The husband, the dad, the leader of the household, is to be that representation of Christ for his family.
Yeah.
Now, in saying that, if we started following that, how much success? And I expect my wife to follow that as well, and she does. She does so willingly. But now, as a man, that doesn't mean that I put my foot down and I'm tyrannical and this and that.
Right.
Absolutely not. That means
wouldn't
that
go very
all
far with
no,
your
not with my wife. No.
We're made equal with
My
that,
wife
that
right
means
Yeah.
that I'm responsible for everything that is with my house.
Mhm.
I am to love my wife gently, the way that Christ loves the church,
Mhm.
and I'm to lift her up, and I'm to
Ephesians
be
5.
Yeah, exactly. She's to look at me and respect the authority that God has given me, basically for my household, the same kind of authority that he holds on a smaller level.
Mhm.
And
That's where it starts.
Yeah,
that's where it starts.
absolutely.
And if we started following that,
The world would change.
the world would change.
Upside down, Acts 2.
It's
All the
a
way
little
up
bit
to
of
how we
respect.
looked at
A
God.
little bit
Yeah.
of respect goes so far, you know.
Yeah.
But it
with-
builds your
with
respect.
Christ, with
Thank you.
family, with a little bit of respect will get you so much further with everything.
Y'all remember
You
going
know,
into your
Love your
grandma's
fellow
house?
man. That's
the-
something. I'm sorry.
Mhm.
go ahead.
No, go ahead. I cut you.
But that's something I took a big hit on coming out of what I did. Was I used to have a lot of animosity and people I didn't like. You know what? At the end of the day, I still love they're my fellow man.
Got to, man.
You know,
Got
and
to.
that there was things and people that I was letting just burn me up. And when I come out of this and I got a new perspective on things, yes, it is what it is.
Yeah.
And they're not my role. They're not my hierarchy.
Yeah.
I have a boss.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't pay my bills. They
And her
don't.
name is Odessa.
Dallas.
I'm sorry, not
Dallas.
Odessa, Dallas. I'm sorry,
Murky
Dallas.
you now.
I was thinking of a guy that I know. So
But there's, looking back, I don't harbor no ill feelings towards people like I used to. There's people that I just did not like,
Mhm.
and I wish ill on no one. But when you open your heart back up and your mind, and you do that discipline commitment to God, your life gets so much better, so clear. Like since I woke up, I have not been on social media, not one time.
Mm.
This is the closest I've come to being on social media. And you know what?
Look at it this way.
My stress level's gone way down.
Yeah.
We're to pray for those people. Just imagine your situation. I'm sure you had a band of people praying for you.
Oh, I had a crew.
That
I was
intercede for
on.
you, right?
There's
That was the
there's one
difference.
lady. She had
Yeah.
come in there and threw holy water on me when I kid you not.
Okay,
man.
what was holy about the water?
And it was,
Oh, well, that's for another podcast. That's for
a
another
lady
episode.
from her church went over to Italy to some big church over there and got like gallons of this blessed holy water and brought it back in little bottles and
Oh,
passed it out. And she was in there throwing it on me, praying. Man, I'm telling you, the power of prayer. I believe in that. But
no doubt.
I'm telling you that when I opened my eyes and looked around that room, the support that I saw through prayer and just friends, and Eric knows these people too. He's been up there using their driveway and hunting on my land. But anyway,
good hunting property.
yeah. But it's the feeling to wake up to have that support, and it's all based around God.
iron sharpens iron.
Yeah. Well, and
Yeah,
that's the face of Jesus,
Mm.
is when you see people come to you in your hour of need, when you don't deserve it, especially.
Literally, you find out who your friends are, literally and figuratively,
Yeah.
through the power of prayer. And it's
Right.
sad. It takes
right.
something that horrific to bring that out.
Well, and Jesus said they'll
For
know
to see
you
that.
by yeah, exactly, by your love, right?
Yeah.
So they'll know we are Christians by our love. Is that anyway? So
Let me add something real quick.
Yeah.
We're getting a little bit off the subject of this one, but you want to
no,
pray.
you're fine.
Genuine prayer, one of those most honest, and especially coming from a child. Man, you should have heard Paxton. Not the night that I found, dude. The night that I found out about you.
Well, I mean, we need
I
to be
sat there. I said,
disciplined in prayer.
Paxton,
Yeah, we do
already,
need to be
man.
disciplined in
I
prayer.
said,
Eyes
Paxton,
are watering already, man. You're going to get me.
we need to pray for Marcus. He said, Mr. Marcus. I was like, yeah, Mr. Marcus. We need to pray for him.
That guy.
Yeah.
You should have heard him pray for you that night.
Faith of
Oh,
Israel.
he's an
And
awesome little guy, man.
Nick
That
just
was-
made a really good point, and Andy, I want to hear what you have to think about this. But we do need to be disciplined in prayer, because think about it: if all those people that were supporting you weren't disciplined enough to sit down and take a second,
I
weren't
wouldn't be here.
disciplined enough,
I wouldn't be here. I
no,
don't think I'd be here.
or even allow God to move in their hearts to do that.
Because who are we relying? You're relying on the doctors, right?
Yeah.
You're relying on the doctors. You're relying on the nurses. Like,
And
where
that's-
does it come from, though?
The,
Right.
the whole thing, like those people didn't have to come to work that day. They could have called in sick.
Yeah.
And apparently, when I woke up, there was some rough time there. I was like, "Where am I? Who are you? Do I owe you money?" Kind of thing. And then after I went through that scary part, the nurse is like, "We need to have a conversation about some stuff you might find disturbing." I'm like, "What is more disturbing than this?" Then she started showing me pictures and videos of me tearing up the trauma center,
Oh, wow.
which I'm glad I don't remember because
Any of it, right?
and I look back in law enforcement, I have fought people that had what I had. They're superhuman. I broke all the restraints in the bed. And then they finally had to fentanyl me, put me down, and I went into a coma. And they're like, he's not coming back from that. But at no point in time was I ever alone without somebody there that was praying for me that I've known for years. My wife got those. They stayed with me. My wife got there. She never left my side. And if she did to go get something to eat, somebody else was there. And I just attribute the power of that prayer and the believing got me through and got me here today sitting with you guys.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you, God was also in the car with her because I talked to her while she was on the way to see you.
I don't want to talk about
She
how fast
lied
she
to
was
me.
driving.
I'm telling you, she lied to me. She said she wasn't speeding, but I'm pretty sure she was at low flight.
I guarantee you
So-
she was running better than 100.
Oh, there's no doubt.
In that truck. So
There's no doubt. So,
But
I
yeah,
told her you can make it in 6 hours if you do 100, and she got there in 6 hours.
well,
It's
it's science.
100 miles an hour.
Anyway, you asked Andy a question. You wanted to hear from Andy on
Yeah, I just wanted to hear what his thoughts on discipline and prayer. Because I feel like I don't feel like I know Andy's a praying man, and so like, what's your practice in prayer when you're like, I don't know how to word it, but I think you know what I'm.
What's your daily regimen?
Yeah, typically my prayers in the morning is when I get outside. I usually get outside first thing in the morning with my dogs, and as I'm just out enjoying the new day, I just think, first of all, I thank God for everything that He's given me. I mean, He's blessed me tremendously during my life. I exalt God. I tell Him every day, Lord, I exalt You as the one and the only true and living God that ever has been or ever will be. And, I just thank Him and praise His holy name and ask Him to, Him, the Holy Spirit, to walk with me during that day. And I typically, like I said, enjoy that prayer outside every morning as the sun's coming up or whatever the case may be outside. Every day's a beautiful day. Some are just more beautiful than others, to me. But I thank God for all these things and praise Him, ask Him for His forgiveness. And then I start going through my prayer list of people that I'm praying for. And then, lastly, I pray, for myself. But I always try to pray for other people's first and their needs. And Marcus, lifted up your name many times during your sickness, brother. I love you and was praying for you. And I'm so glad that you're back on a road to full recovery. And prayer definitely works. I've seen it work in my life. I've seen it work in other people's lives. And there's just, as long as you're praying to the one and true living God, the one and the only true living God, the one with a capital G, like we say, then, that's prayer. If you're praying to any other entity, or I've seen a lot of these celebrities start coming out and saying that they have faith, but then you listen to them and they say, well, if you pray to God or whoever you want to pray to, or you want to pray to whatever deity, whatever works for you. No, that's not the way it is. There's only one true living God, and that's the only one that prayer works for. You can't pray to anybody that's dead and get an effect from it.
That's right. No, I think it's tough sometimes when we look at prayer and a relationship with God, when we feel like our faith is veering, and we need to be in anguish in these times. That it's hard to do, isn't it? Break me, because we live in America where, oh my goodness, and I'm like, man, I'll pray to get bolts off my lawnmower. Like, God, please let me get this lawnmower blade off. Like, it's like an all day thing.
I need thee every hour.
Every hour. So, I was thinking, my wife, she previously, a couple of years ago, was diagnosed with breast cancer, and going through that walk with her, I had been praying for 6 years prior, because me and her were kind of on different spiritual paths. And I said, please put something before us to bring us closer to you. Hey, that's tough. And I can,
what you ask for.
And I earnestly say that cancer did that. And we are reading the Bible together. We're going through devotions together. We're leading the church in different areas together. And that's tough. Most people are like, wow, you did what? Well, yeah, that's what it's all about.
A couple that comes in my wife's shop. They have a friend through their church who was living in Clarksville up there. They sent him over to the hospital. And it's weird how when you have a total stranger walk into your room, sit down, pray with you, you develop a friendship, a bond of, trying to think how to put this. My mind's,
God puts that discernment in you. Like, what's
There's
special about this dude?
A
He's
lot of
got me in
times
my life
deeper
for
than
some
people
reason.
just see it.
yeah. And like we hit it off immediately. He was in 160th. We know a lot of the same people. But from the moment he walked in the room, I felt like I'd known him all my life. I was like, where do I know you from? He's like, but I don't think we've ever met. And I'm like, no, but it takes something. It's bad that it takes something like that for you to realize the true power. Like I say, I've always believed in God. And I was very Southern Baptist, but you actually feel the power of the presence. Like you can feel it. It's, I
Mhm.
can't describe
your mind.
Yeah,
right?
I
Yeah,
can't describe
real.
that, but it's like the realest thing.
Yeah.
It's like getting punched in the nose, man. That was real.
Yeah.
But it's, and
Has any of y'all
people-
ever just wept and not known why?
Oh yeah.
oh yeah, like,
Yeah.
I
Reading
was-
your-
I was sitting in the ICU. My wife finally fell asleep, and I'm like looking around the room, and just thank God for everybody, everything. And I just for like 2 hours, I just cried.
Oh yeah.
But it was like a good cry. Like
Yeah.
I'm getting a little. This is real emotional for me. And but
Hey,
it
it's
was
okay if you need to cry.
It's. I mean, there's. I ain't ashamed of crying. There's things I cry about. I think about
yeah.
some of the bad calls I've been on riding down the road, and I tear up and think about that. But it's a feeling that you're like, it's not like being accepted. It's more of a trying to think of a way to put this into
I see you.
words.
Right?
Yeah,
I see you.
but it's such a good feeling that it hurts that because I was raised that way and got away from that.
Mhm.
Like I've done some things in my life I'm not proud of.
Sure. We
But-
all can sit in it.
You
Yeah.
get back, it's a feeling like, hey man, I'm back in the club kind of thing, but it's not a club, but it's that feeling of
Peaceful.
yeah,
Mhm.
tranquility.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't have problems. I thought I worried about stuff all the time. I come out of that, I'm like, I ain't got a problem in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
I had turned loose of so much stuff because the doctor's like, he's like, man, stress gonna kill you. After that, I'm like,
Don't need
they
it.
ain't paying my bills. I ain't got nothing to worry about. I turned loose of so much stuff. And I know like people that I'm close to, like Eric, and I don't talk to Andy near enough. I kind of stalk him on LinkedIn, wish him a Merry Christmas, that kind of stuff. But it's friends like that you haven't talked to in years. When you talk to them, it's like you seen them yesterday.
Yeah.
That's kind of felt like I was back in the fold and closer to God. That it hurt my heart that I had strayed so far from him. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
We've all,
Yeah.
I've been there.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
It had to break me in half.
And working working in the first responder stuff, there's times I've questioned my faith. I'm like, how can God let something like this happen? And like I've been out of paramedic school 2 weeks. We got a call unresponsive infant. Who I could see it in my rearview mirror. I was going to beat the ambulance there by 30 minutes. And that one sticks with me, why?
Yeah.
And we
live in a fallen world, bro.
and God called the angel home. That's the best way that I can make my heart feel good about it, because the innocence of a baby is just something.
Andy and I talk about this a lot. Kind of what I'm hearing from you right now. Because both of us were raised that way, and I've told my story about when I was young and got saved, fell away. If we could go back, if I could go back, man, and not let all of that mold me into something that I didn't want to be, but let what God was trying to do with me mold me and use that in my job.
Oh,
you know how many times I could have ministered to people? I could have, and it might not have done anything to change the outcome of a call or outcome of a situation or anything like that. It might not have done anything other than give them that peace they needed.
And
he agrees with that. How many times could you do that? We didn't always do that. But if we could go back and knowing what we know now, I think it would be a whole different ballgame.
We gotta look at Jonah though, right? Jonah went as far as he could, and before we realized that this is our purpose. So I think like Vaughty Balcom had a sermon one time. He's like, "You can't have my brokenness." Like I'm thank God for that brokenness, because you look at a perfect life of a Christian with no problems, and it's just like, how deep is that relationship
Yeah.
without the trials and the tribulations? Like I'm thankful for mine. I'm
I
thankful
think
for
you
my
have to
drug
go through
addictions and
those
whatnot. Yeah,
to be genuinely appreciative and thankful for what,
sure.
You got to fall down
Yeah.
to find out what's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what the way I feel about it. I don't know.
No, I agree with
So
that.
there was no discipline in my life, like you were talking about. Like, went to what is it, the Judgment House, right? Where
Oh,
you go
yeah.
through, and it's
Yeah.
a cold room, and you
Yeah.
go through the hot room, and like,
Did we talk about that on our death episode? I wanted to so bad, and I don't know that we did.
we didn't. But
Anyway.
they're like, if you don't want the hot room, come down here and we'll talk to you. And
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, it did me. So like the whole youth group got baptized, right?
Of course.
There was
they
no
did.
sanctification after that.
Yeah,
Of
Of course not.
So, I'm thinking, discipline. My life wasn't disciplined like the baptism, right? You're down a sinner, you're still up a sinner, but it's the symbolism of washing away the sins, and like, but there has to be. The Bible says the old creation has died. There's a new creation. Like in that new creation, we have to be disciplined, right? That's what we see in Hebrews 12. Like to be a child of God, we have to be. And how do we do that? We have to stay away from all those things. I think it's good for a parent, for you, grandkids, children, to see us at our kitchen table, reading the word, make it a constant regimen to pray over our meals. We have to model what we want our children to be, right? What God has put upon us. So in that discipline of how we live, we have to the sun stop. Cuss out a lady at the gathering, and then be a deacon in the church. We're teaching our kids that there's no discipline. You just do whatever you want to.
Exactly.
You forgiveness.
Man, and one of the biggest lies that the world will say, and I've heard people say this in the church, I've heard people say this from the pulpit sometimes, which is crazy, but that's just the way I am. That's just how I am. There's no change in that.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm sorry, if you're a Christian, that's not just the way you are anymore. That's the whole point.
Right.
Yeah.
Is that it's not who you are anymore. And I want to go back to something way back to what Nick said way earlier about he was talking about self-control. Like it just doesn't just come. It's something that you work on in these things. And I want to read Galatians 5:22-23, which is the fruit of the Spirit. And it says, "But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such things there is no law." And the reason why I want to touch on those things is because every single one of those things does not come without practice.
Can we read the verse before that?
Yeah, the
Read
fruit
the
of the
verse before-
flesh, right? Hang on, I don't have it pulled up. I have it in my notes.
It's everything like that you are not to do will
Yeah.
not inherit the kingdom of
And which those are the
fornicator,
things I would say
slander.
come naturally. Those are things you're born with. Sexual immorality, all the moral sins, right? All those things come naturally. But these things afterward, when the Holy Spirit starts to work in your life, they're all things that we have to be taught or walked into. I would say, like, they're virtues.
repentance.
Yeah, repentance. Like, so that love, love comes because we've been loved first. Like, we're shown love. And then we work on that. Joy, the same thing, is a practice. Joy is not just being happy. Joy is having, a joyful spirit in the midst of suffering. Like, that's practice. Peace, practice. It doesn't come without.
You think we're searching?
Yeah, and then the self-control.
That's the toughest one.
That's the one we don't talk about enough. We don't talk about self-control as being a fruit of the Spirit.
Do you think we're searching too much for the emotion?
I think
Does
there
that make
are-
sense? Does that make sense? We're
I think there
always
are certain
searching.
people, yeah.
Well, I don't say
Feelings.
we.
Yeah, I think that's a
Jeremiah
big
says the heart is garbage, right?
Yeah.
Do you think that people are
Deceitful
always
above all
searching
things.
for the emotion of things?
Yeah.
When what we should be doing is
Seeking God.
seeking God through all that and practicing that discipline to do, because I don't think. All right, so a worship service, and I know that a true worship service is people lifting up and they're truly worshiping God. But a lot of times you see a worship service can be emotionally driven.
Yep.
Oh yeah, totally.
And that's, you see
Lights,
people and they walk out of there and the emotion's gone and it's kind of dead.
Right.
So I think that when we're searching too much for the emotion of everything,
Yeah.
we're losing the discipline aspect of our life.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Because
the discipline aspect of, okay, like Andy says, he gets up every morning and that's his time outside. And I'm kind of like Andy. I know it's crazy. There's nothing to back this up, but man, I feel like I'm heard more when I go outside and pray. I don't know if you, but I feel like I do. I feel like
I'm at
okay,
one
but-
with
yeah, there's not that ceiling fan there. It's not blowing things back down. It's literally open. And that may be crazy. Whatever.
You're more in
It's
creation.
like, I tell a lot, like everybody that comes to see me in the hospital, I was like, hey, walk over to my window over there. They're like, what? I said, go to the window. They'd walk over. I said, look at the sun. They're like, that's bright. I'm like, every day. Walk out and look at the sun, man. Just
Every day.
take a minute, look at the trees, touch the grass.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah.
that lead into the bigger.
But that's what I'm saying. Andy's got a regimen. He does it. I mean, and there's probably sometimes you get up in the morning, man. I'm not as into that as I was yesterday, or maybe as I will be tomorrow. But it's a regimen. It's a discipline thing that he does.
Yep.
I think through that discipline is how we grow closer with
back,
God.
back
because
on
we're
that commitment.
back on the commitment. We're doing
Daniel.
the things that we are supposed to do, and being obedient to God and having the discipline to do so.
well, and also
And
God is
and
going. Go ahead, Andy.
I was going to say, and oftentimes, if I'm outside doing something or I'm riding down the road, or sometimes, if I'm inside the house too, but, the Holy Spirit will just convict me out of the blue somewhere to pray for somebody or to pray for some specific situation. It's just just comes out of nowhere. Like, you need to pray for this person or pray for this situation or whatever the case may be. And it just comes out of nowhere. But I think if you're really in tune with God and you really got a close personal relationship, the Holy Spirit will speak to you in those occasions where you need to pray.
Through that
Absolutely.
discipline, you
That's a
have
strong
obedience
emotion.
to pray, right?
Yeah,
That's-
absolutely.
That's
You-
that strong emotional feeling when you feel that, right?
Oh yeah, very.
Deep feeling.
Yeah. That's
You said it when you're in tune with God. That's what you said, the word you said. But being in tune with God, all right, I go back to martial arts. How do you get to be that guy? Man, he's got it down. This guy is on, shooting. You are able to pull from the holster or come up to the shoulder and make a shot. How do you do that? You repetition. You have to do the same thing with your prayer walk. You have to do the same thing with your obedience to God. You have to build that discipline. And in building that discipline, it gets you on point. It gets you, quote, in tune with God.
Out of all the things could have asked Jesus how to do, right? He asked him how to pray, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
How do you preach?
How do
Man.
you master? You pound on it every day.
Well, and what did
until you
Jesus say
perfect it.
when after that he prayed the Lord's Prayer?
Reverence.
And then right after that, he said, he gave an example of how to pray persistently, consistently, and commit in a committed way. So through discipline is what Jesus was teaching through that, is commit yourselves to prayer. Make yourself get into that time with the Lord, because I think what Jesus was saying was, you're not always going to feel like it. And I think that was part of the Garden of Gethsemane when Jesus was going in there, like they're falling asleep and stuff. And we like see Jesus getting, annoyed with
Lack
them,
of
right?
discipline.
Yeah. And he's like, I think that's kind of the idea, is like lack of discipline. I think all these time we're, anyway, so we would definitely benefit from studying that and saying, you know what, if I am just persistent, if I discipline myself, you know what else discipline shows to people? Whenever you're disciplined, you're committed to the things you say you're going to do, all these things, integrity, trust, it builds trust, and it shows what is actually important to you. So we have I don't want to speak poorly about anybody or our church, but we have prayer requests on Wednesday nights. Every Wednesday we start the service off with prayer requests, and there are people that will just bring every single thing before, and nothing, we should pray for everything. I don't think that it's wrong. I think God cares about it all. Yeah, like my mouse, I saw a mouse on the street, it died, like we should pray for the mouse family, like things like that, where it's like, I don't know that we should burden ourselves down to pray for things that we don't truly care about, when there are people and things that that God should really be burdening us about, and we should be disciplined to pray for someone like Marcus, or like had that God had burdened Eric for, because he, like, I met you before I ever met you. I like hearing you talk to Andy earlier. I was like,
Man,
wait, I know
that's-
him. I've been praying for him.
That's deep. Man.
You know,
you knew
so
him before you even met him. That's
yeah,
deep.
yeah, because that's
kind of
yeah, when you
scary a little bit.
well, I mean, the thing is when you pray for somebody before and you don't know them, you do know them in a way.
Yeah, there's a
Because of his
connection.
There's a
relationship,
connection.
right?
Yeah.
So in relationship,
Yeah.
when you
There's
pray,
a
you're-
connection. I am firmly like the guy
Yeah.
that walked in the room. I'm like, why do I feel like I know you?
Yeah. I think there's a reason Jesus
And-
said to pray for your enemies because it
Yeah.
connects you to them in a way that,
Absolutely.
you know,
I agree
it's
with that
hard.
100%.
yeah, it's hard to do. And you start to care about that person in a way you couldn't have cared
Yep.
about them, talking about them and being rude to them, you know, and all
Hey.
these things. Go ahead.
I've got a rant. I've got one of my rants about
Oh,
prayer. Here
here
a
we go.
second, okay?
Love these.
Well,
Bring it.
if you tell somebody you're going to pray for them, how many times have you heard somebody say to somebody, "I'll be praying for you"? You know, when they walk out the door, or whatever, "I'll be praying for you." Do you really pray for that person? Don't tell somebody that you're going to be praying for them and then not do it. I've done that before, and then I realized, man, I told this person I was going to be praying for them, and I haven't done it, and I felt convicted. Like I need to pray for this person right now. And the worst thing that really, really gets my goat is to see people on Facebook. Somebody posts something on Facebook or other social media platforms, and they'll say, "Prayers up, praying for you and your family. Prayers up," you know. And all the little hand emojis and this, that, and the other. Are those folks really praying for this person? You know, don't put don't put something on a post just to be putting something to make people think that you're praying for somebody.
Quick. I agree with you, and 100%. A guy, he came in here. He came in the stockyard not too long ago, and I agree with you 100%. And what I see, if you're going to say you're going to pray for somebody, pray for them right then.
that way you don't forget it.
This guy came in, super nice guy. His last name is Skelton, Mr. Skelton. Man, I love to have conversations with him. This guy is awesome. He came in and he sits there and he says, "Man, I see that you're going through a lot, yada, yada, yada. We're not going to get into that." He said, "I want to pray for you." I said, "Well, thank you. I appreciate it." He says, "No, I want to pray for you right now."
Right now.
You're going to sit there and you're going to say you're going to pray for somebody. Do it right then.
That's right.
Takes 30 seconds.
Yeah. Do it
And
right
there's
then.
Or less.
on the kind of touch on another avenue of what Andy was talking about. Like there was a few weeks there where I was like an invalid. I couldn't do nothing. I had a sore on my foot. That's a whole nother thing. And you get these people, "Hey buddy, if you need something, let me know." And you're just like, "Hey man, can you get up and get me a bottle of water?" They're like, "Oh, okay, look at the time." You know, they're being nice, but it's that check the box thing. It's the same as "I'll pray for you." Well, let's do it right now. Let's take 30 seconds out of your jam-packed day and do it. Don't do it. Don't tell me you're going to do it. Then walk off and go to the bar and have a beer. That, you know, you're going to have to answer for that one day.
Right.
That
But
prayer
Yeah.
meeting.
if you're getting convicted over that stuff, Andy, that says a lot. That says you are in tune.
Yeah. But don't think that you can put a little praying emoji on Facebook and say prayers up, and that means that you're praying for somebody.
Right.
Isn't that
Right.
prayer emoji actually a
you.
high five?
Yeah.
And somebody told me
I think
that.
that it's
I don't-
actually a
I've
high
heard
five.
that.
Really?
But I think that is that. And well, I'm not going to say it on
Maybe not though.
but I think that's in the top 3 of worst emojis on your phone. I'm not going to tell you what the other 2 are.
Yeah.
But you can imagine. That's just.
That's fun.
That's,
What were you saying, Nick? I'm sorry. I was trying to hear you.
The prayer list, you know, I'm thinking about like the first churches, Jonathan Edwards days where they had revival meetings of prayer for over 100 years. Like their church, there would be somebody in their church praying
Yeah.
repetitively through and through. And I'm thinking about our prayer meetings. We have a face side of prayers. That do we go to the church? Do we get into anguish for these people,
Mhm.
or do we make it like a legalistic, traditional?
Dinner
Go
and say a
through
few
the
prayers.
list.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah,
pray
let's-
for these people.
No.
Are we breaking into groups and
Yeah.
specifically?
I mean, I'll tell you for sure. And this is something that I think when you become disciplined in prayer, something that you should also do is pray for the people that God actually burdens your heart for. And because it can become legalistic where like I've got all my prayer requests written down in this book in my wallet. And, you know, I pray for them, but I only pray for the ones that I believe God is telling me to pray for. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that because, you know, I do pray for, I don't want to sound like I don't care. Like, I'm not saying I don't care. I care about all of them. I read all of them every day, all the prayer requests that are in my book. And I also read them because I want to check in on people and see how they're doing. but there are certain people that God burdens me for
sure.
like certain prayers that he will lay on your heart, like Andy was talking about, where you just feel something when you look at that. And maybe it's through a connection of like you've been through the same thing, whatever it is, but don't just get into a mode where, okay, I'm just going to pray this thing because, I've got to do this. I got to check my box. I got to make sure that next time I see that person, I can say, I prayed for you. That's not why you pray. You pray because God has given you a burden to pray for
I
somebody.
think we're built for one-on-one relationships, for group relationships. The prison system, when you with relationship, punishment is what? Solitary confinement. Why?
Because we're meant to be,
Yeah,
we're meant
go
to have
nuts.
relationships with people.
Right, so when you put a person in a box, what happens to
punishment.
them mentally,
We're social by
So-
nature.
Yeah, totally.
I know each man here probably have like random people pop in their minds. Why is he in my mind today?
Oh yeah.
I'm just going to throw him a text,
Yep.
encourage him. I don't know what he's got going on. Just going to wave my hand. And
Yeah.
then you get that text back, man, it's been tough, know?
Mhm.
And I think that's where we with youth, I have youth calling me at 2:00 in the morning. Like, I want Jesus, but I want to do this. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and that's that discipline that we're talking
Yeah.
about. Like, okay, I'm going to send you the same text I've sent you 97 times.
That's right.
Like, there's no formula that's any better than
But this
you
one
stop.
time-
Yeah, stop
Yeah.
doing these things.
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
you have to.
I'll give you an example of that. I was driving down the road one day, and one of my best friends from high school pops into my head, and I'm like, I need to just call him. And so I call him, and we talked for a little while and everything, just check up. Like, I hadn't talked to him probably in, I don't know, a few months. And I hang up the phone. Well, a couple days go by, and he sends me a message. He said, because I sent him a message. I said, hey man, praying for you this morning. And he sent me a message back saying, if you hadn't called me the other day, I was driving 70 down the highway with other people in the car with me, and it was like midnight. I would have fallen asleep. I was dozing off. So, and there were a couple times I had to fix myself, like try to wake myself back up. And he said, I was asleep when you called me driving that car, and
That's
it woke me
amazing.
up. I heard it out of my dream. You know how you have a dream and you hear something and it's a part of your dream?
Yep.
He said that's what it was. Like, he heard the phone ringing, but he was dreaming. It was in his dream, and he woke up realizing it was his phone. He said, if you hadn't called me, we would have wrecked 100%.
Funny how
And
God
so,
works.
yeah, it was like that moment where it was divine intervention, where
Yeah.
God was using that moment to say something to him, So yeah, that's absolutely 100% true. And if you're not taking the time to be connected to the Lord and hearing what he has to tell you, and allowing the Holy Spirit to burden your heart for certain things through that discipline, through that prayer life, through all the things that it takes, then you're going to miss those moments so we talked about, why is discipline important? Why are all these things important? Because it could literally be the difference between life and death for somebody. It could.
I have
It's
something,
100% possible.
I have something here, and I really would like to hear because these are questions I have. I've heard this and I've read this verse many times, and it's something that I think is hard for people. So I'd like to get your input, Andy, your input, Marcus. I mean, everybody to kind of weigh in a little bit on this, because it does go back to the discipline subject. But 1 Thessalonians 5:16-18. Rejoice always. Pray without ceasing. That's the one that I want to get into. Pray without ceasing. Give thanks in all circumstances, for this is the will of God in Christ Jesus for you. Pray without ceasing. We go through the day. I get up. Thanks God. Thanks for letting me wake up. Thanks for letting me, have what I have. Thank you for blessing me. Blah, blah, blah. My prayers are different than that. I'm not saying that. I'm just
Blah, blah, blah.
I don't say blah, blah, blah to God. But, you have this, okay, yeah, we want to be regimented. We want to be disciplined. How do you pray without ceasing? How do you get to that point in life where your entire existence is, maybe this is put in the wrong way, but one long awakened prayer?
Faith. So here's how we get that. So thinking about that verse, which was me and Jenny's go-to during our struggle there, during chemo, so many bad days. There was one day in particular where she was in there laying on her bed, feeling like God showed me something good out of this, right? I feel so alone right now, and I don't know. I just went straight in my house, put my stuff down, went in there, prayed over her, and she just fell apart. Like it was like instantaneous. Like it was during that moment that happened. I got on the bed with her, curled up with her, and cuddled with her, whatever. And the pray without ceasing. She gave her testimony at church one time, and the pray without ceasing is the what if part. What if God doesn't heal me? The ceasing part is joy in being sick. Joy is being at your lowest. Joy in the Lord, knowing that whatever happens,
It's okay.
This is not our best life now.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Our best life is the moment we take our last
Amen.
breath, right?
Yep.
So our purpose here is to glorify God and His kingdom, expand His kingdom as far as we can. So, in that, to answer your question, pray without ceasing is praying in the bad times, praying in the good times, praying in the times where we don't know where our electricity bill is going to come from. She didn't work for a month, but guess what? Other churches that we never stepped in foot of check in the mail
Yeah.
to the amount of what we need.
Wow.
But that's faith. It's
Yeah.
a relationship. Hebrews 11, the whole chapter. I was just thinking when y'all were talking, like this book is full of imperfect people. None of them had it right, but Jesus, of course. And they all repented and worked towards that discipline. Enoch walked with God. What does it look like to walk with God? We look at Abraham, walked with God.
Right.
And he getting up in the morning, walking with God.
Yeah, that's key. Walking with God, I think, is the same as praying without ceasing. It's the same exact.
So my answer is
Absolutely,
the what if.
that makes sense.
Whatever happens.
I kind of relate to Peter. Lord, please get away from me. I'm a sinful man.
Yeah.
You know?
So here's my question. Where's your faith at? If you've been praying for something for 20 years and God says no, where are you that day? Are you still worshiping, praising? Or are you saying, you're out the window,
Though you
I'm trying
slay
something
me.
else?
Yeah.
Like Job.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
That
exactly.
was a go-to our whole
Yeah.
sick time, right?
Yeah.
Took everything away from
For a
Jason.
lot of people, it is. Why I asked Marcus that question earlier is like, do you feel like you've found growth in this, or that you have a decision to make, right? We talked about that.
Yeah.
So everybody has that, and Job is such a great example of what it means to make the choice to say, though you slay me, I will choose to praise you. I will still
Y'all ever
follow
wondered
you.
why he left his wife? Took everything else but the nagging wife, right?
Mhm.
Why?
Yeah.
To try that faith.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. Why did the devil take everything but the wife? And the wife was the one that was just sitting there in his ear telling him, you need to just curse God and die. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's like, and you'll have those people in your life that will come into your life and they'll try to steer you in the right direction. They have good intent, but all of them fall short of God Himself. And that's such a good story about Job. It's like discipline is not just listening to what other people say, but going straight to the source, which is the Lord. But we're getting close on time, so I want to make sure that I hit these 3 points really fast, if that's okay. Discipline. There's 3 things that I just wanted to make sure we mentioned, and the last one I really think is a really juicy topic. But the first thing is discipline is the fruit of the Spirit, and that's something that I really want Christians, and I feel like we need to really know, is that self-control comes as a fruit of the Spirit, and to deny it, to not want to deny your own self, deny your own pleasures, is to deny the Spirit of God living within you. It's got to come, and it's a virtue. It's something that's taught, which means God teaches us self-control through discipline as well. And then the second thing is that discipline's needed to reach the prize. In 1 Corinthians 9, it talks about running a race, and that we're running and we discipline our bodies. Paul says, but I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified. And we don't want that. We have self-control. We allow the Spirit to work in our hearts so that we can reach the prize. What's the prize? It's eternal life, and it's to be made perfect, to be made holy as Christ is holy. That's the prize. Not that we will ever reach it here on earth. That's not the point. The point is that we are running in a way to win the prize, to have a posture that is to be self-controlled, to be disciplined so that we can run that race. And the third thing is self-discipline, or discipline period, creates peace. Even though it doesn't seem like it, it does. It creates peace. And Marcus really made that clear through his story even. And I'm super excited to dive into that
Yeah,
more
I'm
on
really
another
excited for that,
episode.
'cause
That's
a
going to
whole-
be a good one.
that's gonna be a good
Obviously, because we really dug into that a lot. It's
Yeah.
been good.
But you don't have the half of it.
No, I don't, which is great. I'm excited about that. But yeah, Proverbs 25:8 says, "A man without self-control is like a city broken into and left without walls." What is that? That's chaos.
Yeah,
That's absolute chaos. You
Absolutely, yeah.
allow anything in, anything can leave. All these things can be going on. Anybody can disrupt your peace at any given moment. A city without walls is a peaceless city. It's a chaotic
Mhm.
city. And he says, a person without self-control is like that city.
It goes right back to that commitment and discipline.
Right.
It all comes together,
Absolutely.
you know.
Absolutely.
Like if we look at Ezekiel 30, I think it's 30:22, where God says, I'm looking for a man to stand in the gap. There was a hole in the Jerusalem wall, one hole. So if you're an enemy, where are you going to go? You're going to try to breach that hole.
Breach
Yeah.
that hole. Yep.
God was looking for one man to stand in that hole, and he couldn't find nobody, he says.
Yeah.
So discipline is standing in that gap,
Absolutely.
because it's not, like you said, it's not one of those things. It's all of those things. The fruit of the spirit, you can't just pick one and be cool with one. Like, you have to be good with all of them.
Yeah. It's all virtues.
I think
We've all seen
discipline is the enemy of chaos. It's a
Or you,
good way to
I
put
think
that.
Andy's going to say something.
Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah. Hey guys, I'm fixing to have to go ahead and jump off here, but there's two things I want to say, and this is about pertaining to prayer. I think we kind of started off with discipline today, and we moved big into the whole prayer realm there. So, maybe this episode should be titled "Discipline to Pray" or "Disciplining Our Prayer Life" or something like that. But anyway, there's just two things I want to say. Is I think the stronger your prayer life is, the stronger your faith will be. The stronger your faith is, the stronger your prayer life will be. Those are two interlocking things there. You can't have one without the other, and they both be strong. One can't be weak and the other be strong. So both of those have got to be strong. And the other thing I want to point out too is prayer is not meant to be a monologue. It's a dialogue. During prayer, we should not only talk to God, but we've got to listen to God also. It's a dialogue between us and Him.
Yeah.
And I think the only way to accomplish that, and the Bible says, don't, watch these people that get out and pray in public, and they want to use all these big words and make a show of their prayer. And that the best prayers, and I'm not saying we shouldn't pray in public, but we need to pray in public, and there need to be public prayers. But the best, most meaningful prayers that there are when it's just you and God and nobody else is around.
What about those
Just you
recited?
two.
Right? That was
Yeah,
what I was gonna say.
I'm not a fan of a recited prayer. I've been asked to pray at a lot of public events and stuff like that. I have never taken a recited prayer or printed prayer up and read it. And people have penned these prayers, and I think they were sincere when they penned these prayers and put ink to paper when they did it. But to go back and just to recite that prayer, I've just always been one to speak from the heart and pray from the heart.
That's where you get your best.
That's right.
When it's coming from you, from your soul, that's where you get your best.
That's just me. And I really don't even, if I'm asked to pray in a situation, I really don't even think about what I'm going to say until it's time to open my mouth. And then it just comes out. And those are the best kind of prayers.
I like to argue with my wife too. It's like, just not think about it. Just let it all come right
Yeah.
out.
To everything that Andy just
You
said.
can't go in there with a plan.
No, you cannot.
You can't
No.
prepare anyway.
To everything that Andy just said, I'm gonna coin a phrase that Thomas has used several times. Man, that'll preach. That's gospel right there.
And that pre-plan lasts as long as the first contact. After that, it's just legalism. You're shooting from the hip.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, hey, I've enjoyed being with you guys today. Sorry I couldn't be there in person. Of course, I didn't want to bring whatever I've got in there in the studio though. But I'll see you guys in person next week.
Andy, it's good seeing you, brother.
Getting
man.
feeling better, man.
Love you guys.
Love you,
too,
bro.
man.
See you, bro.
So we had a youth service a couple of weeks ago, and the kid, typed his out, and he brought it to church, and I'm like, you throw that in the trash, bro. You're not reading it. You're not closing with this. So he got out there and he laid it down, and it was better than what he had penned.
Yeah. See, just
It
speak from
always
your
is.
heart.
When you come from the heart, it always
People
is.
feel pressure. I've noticed, like the church I grew up in, they would pick like, Eric, today's your day to lead us in prayer. People would lose their mind. And the preacher we had, he's like, just stand up and tell us from the heart what you feel. And it usually turned out pretty good. And then some people were just like, they
Thank you,
remark.
God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
appreciate it. And we've all heard you got your born on and your expiration date and your little dash. The dash is the important part.
Mm-hmm.
That's how, that's that adage about, I don't want to be laid out on display in a coffin. I want to come slide in there sideways with my hair on fire going, "Ooh, what a ride." But, they talk about the dash that's your life from start to finish. I think that dash, the big part of it, what I believe now, is how you choose to serve God. So you can take that walk
Into the next part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you make that dash count and commit and have the discipline and to serve a higher power, then the kingdom of heaven is going to be a great place for you. It's just
Right.
And people don't think about it that way.
No,
Like,
well, and
I
that's
want to do this.
which
and
that's
that.
that's a whole nother
That's cool. But
topic, but like,
I mean, you could go.
this world is preparing us for what we're about to step into.
Absolutely.
And we have a choice now to live with a kingdom mindset so that when the kingdom comes for all of us, when we step into eternity, we can be ready for that, and not just that, but we can receive the heavenly reward that, God has talked about receiving, all of us. But like, we think that we're going to forget everything, or like there's some really crazy out there views about what happens when we step into eternity. But like, people are like, you're just in this blissful, peaceful, like just kind of like robotic state. And it's like, well, then what was Earth for? Like, what was all of this for if you're not going to remember any of this?
We are running short on time.
It makes
and
you into the
we've
person.
gotten really
Anyway.
off of the discipline thing. But this is what I think.
Circle back.
Yeah, let's circle back.
Real quick, Nick was going to give a real fast.
I
didn't want to cut him off.
just to drive a point in discipline low. You were using martial arts. Okay, so who trained you in martial arts? Did you learn it by yourself?
No, your teacher.
Somebody you had to have a disciple. Somebody disciple.
You had to
So as men, as Ecclesiastes says, 3 are better than 2, right? I think the discipline, we need accountability, right? So you can't do this alone. So in that, giving the text and say, "Hey man, brother, what you got going on?" He's like, "Man, I'm gonna drop one on y'all because I'm pretty transparent, right?" So on scrolling Facebook, I've been up and down with that. Try to use it as a good thing, social media and whatnot. So Theo Vaughn is in YouTube Shorts, so I get caught up watching him, even though I knew I shouldn't, right? So that's a conviction I have to stop watching that because Bobby Lee and all those, it's garbage. Like they don't believe, but it's funny, so I watch it. So somebody had to tell me, you got to stop, So I think iron sharpens iron. When you have a problem, you should not have an issue with saying, "Hey, brother, like I'm dealing with this." Like we've got to be that humble, like you said, with the cup of water, with the glass of water or whatever. Like me, I would have laid up in there and just parched. I would have just like, no, I don't, because we're dependent upon ourselves, right? We don't want to ask anybody. So I think in discipline, we have to help each other.
And there's a big pride hump you have to get over.
You've got to humble yourself to
as a man, as a normal man in society. We don't ask for directions. We don't read the instructions. We break things,
and then we fix it.
Yeah, and I think it's a pride thing for a man to actually have to lay his feelings out, ask for help,
especially with another dude, right?
Yeah, and there's again that stuff I've been through. I got 0 problems. I'll call him 1 o'clock in the morning if I have to. But at night,
that's awesome.
And
on the other side of that, though, you've got to be willing to be receptive to that too.
Yeah.
If Marcus calls me, I know if Marcus calls me in the morning, there's something he needs.
That's right.
Yeah,
and I'm going to answer the phone.
I have a guy like that. He's usually drunk.
I think there's no point in having Sunday school classes if we're not going to talk about our problems.
Yeah,
like, we're just
I don't
looking
mind.
at
Oh
each
yeah,
other.
yeah.
I'm like, call me. I will come get you.
Yeah.
Just so you don't have to drive.
But you gotta exercise a level of humility to do that too, especially as a man.
Oh yeah.
You gotta humble yourself, man.
For sure.
Yes. Correction takes some humility for sure. Receive it.
Going back to what I was saying, you said there's a lot of out there views on what happens. And maybe we should, kind of close with this because we are running a little bit long on time. So I don't think we're in, I think that we have, said this the other day, I think that we have everything backwards as humans. And I could be completely off base. we're in this existence here that we think is real.
Mm-hmm.
I can touch this table. It's real.
Oh yeah, I see where you're going.
I can, I'm standing on the ground. It's real.
Yeah.
We're in this existence, and this is quote, how many times you heard this is real world?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that we've got it backwards, because the question is what does this existence mean? If certain things happen after we die, there's a spiritual war going on. It's been going on before creation.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can all agree with that, right?
Yeah.
It's been going on before creation, before the creation that we know of this world.
Yeah.
I don't think that this is the real, quote, real world.
No,
I don't.
Yeah,
I
I'm
believe that the
100%
world and the
convinced
kingdom that we are going to go into.
Mm-hmm.
And look, I don't think we're going to step into this. I mean, we may, I don't know. I don't think we're going to step into this completely peaceful, blissful. No, we're going to step into worship of God and the glory of God.
It's going to be real.
Oh yeah, it's going to be real.
It's not going to be floating on a cloud.
No.
We're going to step into
Angel wings and the heart.
But think about it. If I die before, God's plan for the end of the world and for the victory that is coming, if I die before that, am I not moving into that still spiritual battle that's going on? That evil against good that's going on? Am I not stepping into that?
That's a good question.
Well, looking at it biblically,
yeah.
look at Abraham's bosom, and
They're going to
it's
leave
kind of
us
like
in
a holding place.
We're
getting into it deep.
How are we going to get into all that? Yeah, we're going to go
what
there.
I'm trying to say is,
You will see Jesus.
Yeah.
Jesus threw a cliffhanger right here at the end.
We can guarantee
this world, if we could get past this is real. This isn't real for us. This is a holding. I mean, this is a training ground.
Yeah.
That's what this is. This is a training ground.
A waiting room.
Leonard Ravenhill.
Yeah.
That's a
No,
funny.
you just impressed Thomas.
Hey.
Anyway, but that's just my thought. So I could.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. And I want to end this with Hebrews 12:11. Nick's been mentioning Hebrews 12 a lot, and I think that's if you want to learn about the discipline of God and what it means to be a child of God, that's where you go. Hebrews 12. And so Hebrews 12:11 says, "For the moment, all discipline seems painful rather than pleasant, but later it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who have been trained by it." When we're children of God, we're to be people of the later. We're to be long-term, end game people. We're looking for the long term. We're not looking for the short term. Paul says to think on the things that are eternal, not the things that are temporary. All these things are temporary. All of this is short term. And this is like Eric said, to touch on that, this is a waiting period,
Training ground.
a training ground. Exactly. Not that this is useless, not that all of this is pointless, because we have a purpose here and a plan, and there's something that's very specific we've got to do here. But it's more so that this is momentary, temporary, though. We've got to remember that. So our suffering here is temporary. All of this, Ecclesiastes says it's like a mist. Our lives are like
a vapor.
Mist, a vapor. Yeah. So it's not that we have to sit here and focus on these things, and the spiritual world, the eternal things are way more real. If you just think about it for a second, all of this world that we are currently living in is a product of things we can't see. It just is. Love, all the fruit of the Spirit we talk about, if you really dig into those things, those are the things that are real. Those are the things that last. Those are the things that are eternal. Those are the things that can actually change the world you live in. It can change things 100%, more so than any person could possibly change anything. Is the fruit of the Spirit can.
Yeah, everything else is going to burn.
Everything else is going to disappear. But these things, patience, kindness, gentleness, self-control, all those things, you'll carry into eternity with you, or you won't.
I forgot who it was. Adrian Rogers. Somebody's like, I forgot who it was. Anyways, he was like, "What's the one thing you can take to heaven with you?" Other people.
Yeah, that's very true. 100%. The way you treat others. So yeah.
Well, I think we're running a little bit long, so maybe we should go ahead and wrap up. Thank you for joining us today. I'd love to have you back on here again.
Absolutely.
And I'd really like to, if Jenny's okay with it, maybe get into the story that from a husband's perspective next time on what y'all went through and how that really transformed a lot for you.
We both got good testimonies.
Marcus, thank you for showing up today. I've been trying to get you in here.
You got me. You ambushed me. Free
Yeah,
food.
Was it like come by for coffee? Oh, and you're going
Oh,
to
yeah.
No. Marcus loves Erica's cooking. So,
Oh yeah.
he didn't come over here to see me. He came
I
over
don't
here
know
to see
who
you.
doesn't like Eric's
Yeah,
cooking.
yeah.
But
Not met anybody.
not one. I mean, we gave away some of the stuff we want to talk about with you today, but that's a really, really powerful story, and I want to get into that.
People to tune in.
So thank you for
It's a good story.
for getting on here today with me.
Absolutely, brother. It's good seeing you. I enjoyed
Thomas,
it.
thank you for all you do. I mean, publicly, everybody, I'm telling you right now, this couldn't happen if Thomas wasn't here. I'm not technically smart enough to do this stuff. I can sit here and ramble and talk, and most of the time people don't want to listen to me anyway. But
I can throw rocks. I don't know.
You three guys have awesome radio voices.
Oh, really?
Faces.
I know Eric does for sure.
Faces
So
for
does Andy.
radio.
Everybody loves Andy's voice.
Everybody loves Andy's voice. And I mean, Andy's more technical than I am, but man, Thomas does such a great job with all this. Thank you for everything that you do, man.
Thanks, man.
And anybody else got anything?
Just if you're watching on YouTube, then subscribe. It goes a long way to help us out, and it's free. You don't have to pay for it at all. Not right now, at least.
Yeah, not right now.
Not by us. It won't be our call if you do.
We got a lot of things that we want to do. We're wanting to kind of start throwing out there. There's a lot of stuff we're going to be.
Oh yeah, we
out.
got some big plans.
Go to the website. Go to the merch, man. We want to see people out there wearing the Shepherd Station hat or the God with a capital G T-shirt.
Yeah.
That's awesome T-shirt, man.
Yeah. If you do, tag us because we love to see it and we love to share it and all that stuff. So, yeah. That's kind of what I wanted to say. And then if you're listening on the podcast, leave a review, give us a 5-star or whatever star you think is appropriate.
No. Give us a 5-star.
We like
We're
5-star,
asking,
but
we want a 5-star.
if you don't, we want to know the truth, So
Like Mark Driscoll said, everybody gives us a 1-star. We want a 5-star.
And look,
a 5-star. So.
I will say this: we know that we're getting somewhere because we're getting some comments that aren't all peachy. There was one, oh my gosh, there's some that I'm like, okay.
That just makes you stronger.
I like those comments.
Oh, they're
I
trolling.
really do.
I mean, there are people that are just trolling us, and that's fine. I mean, it's okay. It's just funny. I'm like, wow, we made it. Like, we're making it.
Yeah.
We're doing
That's what we're
something
trying to
because
do.
people don't like what we're doing.
We should do an episode where all these people that are giving those comments, hey, why don't you call in and we'll debate you on it?
Oh Lord.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, I'm
I
open
will
to
hurt
it.
feelings wholesale.
No, I don't think any of those people would actually call. I think they're all, just putting stuff out there. It's what people do.
That's all right. I don't
People
care.
want to put something.
We don't really hold back a lot of times here, or
Yeah,
at least I don't sometimes.
Yeah.
And it's not my place to judge, but people that want to get an earful.
Marcus
Yeah.
doesn't have a problem giving them an earful.
I've
I've seen
no-
that firsthand.
No. But for those of you that do support us and love us and really follow us as we go along here, thank you so much for everything that you do and all the support that you show and for watching and sharing and doing all this. It means a lot to us, seriously.
Yeah, thank you. We love you. We'll see you next time.